whatever they want. But as a municipality, like if Jeff, goes and mows somebody's lawn, because they're not mowing it when they should, we're going to charge them for providing that service. It's kind of a similar concept. We're doing a service, we charge for it. We should be following up on charging people for it.
So the recommendation is to change final notice to all.
Right.
Would there be some criterion for forgiving people for paying that? If there were financial hardship or?
There could, but I would say the notices should go out, and then if somebody is going to ask for some exception being made, then they should apply.
This is the broadest possible way to do this, and there can always be exceptions made, but not if you've already narrowed your opportunity, right?
So if we choose all there, we have to pick either collections or client action. And Nate could probably tell us the difference between the two of those, because I honestly am not aware.
Yeah, I'm assuming just, and I haven't had a chance to talk with the medics folks, but collections, I think, would probably be sending it to like a collection agency.
The collection agency, right?
That's pretty straightforward. I'm not sure what the client action.
Well, client action would reserve it to us to send them a demand letter or what have you, right? Okay. Are we going to hire a collection agency?
I don't know if medics does it themselves or not.
Yeah, the take-back hours there, that's something they use.
What you're saying, they're gonna what?
They already have one that they use.
Okay.
So we're not talking about, like a $40,000 bill here.
No.
For something. We're talking about $300 to $800, right?
Well, you're going to be.
We're going to set those soon.
So you'll know exactly how much.
Yeah.
Biggest bill I see is about $1,500.
Yeah, right.
And that's if you're really dying.
So when we make this decision that a final notice will be sent, and then if they don't respond to that, the next thing is client action and collections. That doesn't say, this is just what medics is doing. That doesn't tell us we can't go to a collection.
Right.
Correct, but I would hazard to guess that things are more likely to happen if medics is
doing
pushing
it.
it.
It's doing it.
We're paying them the bill for us. So.
Right.
So what are we looking at? We're looking at client action and collection.
I do.
Well, so collections probably makes it the easiest. And then, if we have some egregious scofflaw, we could always go after them ourselves, right?
Right. So we'll say all on that, to be fair.
So I want to say something about that. We had kind of implied to our people that when we were going to do this, that we were going to have soft billing for people who didn't have insurance, blah, blah, blah. To me, it sounds like that's not what we're doing here.
So if you want to go into an attorney-client session, I can talk you through my legal opinion about software.
But I'm just saying that was a thought that we had, and this particular bunch of actions sounds like now when the ambulance goes to somebody's house and if they don't have insurance, and there's a medic sends them a bill for $1,000, we're going to go after them and get it from them.
We're going to try. I mean, collections is collections.
Unless they apply for that exception. That's what we're talking about.
I'm sorry?
Well, they said they can apply for an exception due to financial hardship if that be the case. I believe that'd be our
You're gonna have to respond to our offices, right? Village clerk.
If you put this in the paper tomorrow, that we've got a new billing service for the ambulance, and anybody that doesn't have their insurance company pay for their ambulance ride, they're going to be billed $1,000, and we're going to come and get it from you. You'll find out what that means.
Well, anybody that has insurance will be billed to the insurance company. Whether it be homeowners or auto or disability or Medicare, Medicaid, private.
Correct. Anybody that doesn't have insurance that lives in this village that's been getting an ambulance ride for ever and ever and ever is now going to be billed $1,000, and we're going to come after them and get it. I'm just telling you what that is. That is not what people expected.
Well, those that was getting ambulance rides for stuff that wasn't emergencies didn't call an Uber.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
Happens other places.
Yep.
So I pick them up.
There's gonna be rare cases where somebody doesn't have the insurance.
Well, it should be nowadays.
But so, you know, again, and you'll see right on MedX's, very first like paragraph here, you have to make a reasonable attempt to collect payment. And that's regardless of, whether someone has insurance or not. So I think federal law generally obligates EMS providers to attempt to collect.
If we're gonna bill somebody, we gotta do it.
I read that, and then it follows right up in the next sentence. There is no requirement to send patients to collection. It says you have to make a reasonable attempt. It says there's no requirement.
Well, we could always suspend or tell medics to stop pursuing,
Yeah,
180-day claims.
we've done that before. But they got carried away, it was like, oh, stop, no. But the difference was that towns were paying us to do the service as well, to cover what the insurance didn't pay, they did.
Well, this is just
So
going
we
to
don't
be
have-
a straight loss to
Exactly.
our billing.
Right.
And what he didn't tell you as well is with this billing company, there's also a form now that's going to be, it's going to be a thorn in the nursing home side and it's going to be a thorn in the walk-in side. They have to legitimize, and it's a three-section thing. They have to fill out every single part of that as to why that person needs to go in our ambulance. Because if that's not filled in completely and
Signed by the doctor.
and signed by them, it's not a billable issue. So now this is gonna be going, I have to present these to the nursing home and the walk-ins, and I'm gonna guarantee we're not gonna get the boo-boo cut finger and da-da-da-da-da anymore going. But these are people that could go in a Medicab, could go whatever, instead of utilizing and wasting our services.
Yeah.
So this is for our benefit that they have this form. So just if you start hearing a little squawk, squawk, but this is why.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, that one's pretty involved.
yeah.
All right, so the next one.
So how did we end up on that, Mayor? So we had the final notes all, and then we had it sent to
We checked all for all of them, basically.
all for collections and client action.
Well, not client action.
Not client
I didn't check anything.
Right, because we didn't select client action.
Okay.
That would be up to us if we want to do something. So the next set of forms is really just contact information. You don't have to fill anything out there. I filled in the primary PCR.
You got your PCR.
Is Robin, and then the secondary is Paul, which is the captain and co-captain. Other than that, it's just information. So then the last thing that we really need to fill in here is the prices. So, that's the slash chart thing. There's different services. The first one being BLS, which is basic life support, non-emergency. So this is like when the walk-in calls us and schedules something, which they never have done. And she did send me a spreadsheet where I have the average, the max, and the min of all of these categories based on
Areas.
30-some.
Yeah, it appeared to be based on just information that her billing company has billed for clients of theirs, anonymized, but just generally here's below, here's
Is that
high.
northeast? Is it,
They do mainly in Northeast.
but I mean, is it like Twin Tiers?
They're roughly line. It's not gonna tell us.
Okay.
I mean, if you look on MedX, you can see where they provide, where their clients are generally located. It's in New York State.
They're around Syracuse, so.
We did ask her to give us the ones for the broom and.
They do have other clients down in the
So
south.
why don't we select average for all of them? And
Yeah, so that average
I
number.
mean, how else are we gonna determine budget?
Like a BLS, non-emergency, the average price is $576.62.
Not gonna do that.
We want to round those off.
Absolutely.
So one of the ways that you could try and drill down into this maybe a little even more granularly is if we had the time, ask Robin, okay, all the calls that were done last year, what categories were those broken up into? And then if we assign a certain value to these calls, are we gonna meet our budget? And then, just because you want to ideally meet your budget for this. And I hope that if the averages are selected and then we look at the calls, then that means, we'll hit the budget numbers.
Last year, I would have said mostly BLS. This year, it's been pretty even.
And we can come back, we can fill this chart in and we can come back a month later and refill this chart in.
Okay.
And then the new rates would take effect, whatever date we put on.
Right, so we should do something, we should move forward on this tonight so we can
Yes.
get to
Because
that.
it's gonna be 6 weeks even after you guys do this.
Yes, yeah, so I had to register for this MPI number, and that lets MedX go and register us for Medicare. Bank.
So,
That takes-
with Nate's recommendation, I don't know if we can put that all in Robin. I mean, that probably ought to be some, you know, we should probably have
Between them.
a task force here that helps her do that, right? That would be my recommendation.
So should we move?
So let's establish something tonight with averages or whatever,
Right.
and then take the time to actually figure out, while we're generating some revenue, what the numbers are to make us meet our budget.
And we had some, Paul had given us some of those numbers, a couple of meetings ago. I wrote down some of the averages of how much Paul might be for the various, I don't have them right here.
Some of these numbers don't matter a whole lot, because it's Medicare, they pay like a certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on a, and then the more times you use it, the less it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
These are gonna matter when. I probably-
Want to do a punch card every 10th minute?
The budgeting process next year, for the industry department should really consider, okay, what's the recommendation for the
Right,
running rates?
right.
The more you get
Here's
rid of.
why, and all that.
Right.
So as you're recommending that we put in some average figures here right now, so we can have something in place.
She said 500 for a basic comp?
Did you guys get a copy of that?
That was the, probably not.
Mike's got,
What was that, Mike? The average?
576, 60.
576 for a non-emergency BLS. Is that low?
Just that one.
Robin, does that sound right, or where is
It
that?
sounds a little low, because we were, the last.
yeah, it was like 700, I thought.
Yeah, because it was 500 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and some places might not have updated their rates, and that's where the average, you
Yeah.
know, there's.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And, but then we gotta remember our area. I mean, we're not gonna.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and put an $800 BLS cup, and I used to do that to these people.
This is non-emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, to detect whether they really were wanting pain meds or not. Okay, if I take you BLS, it's gonna cost you $600,
Right.
or I can give you your happy pill, and it's gonna cost you $1,200. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like, I can suck up my pain. Okay, you do
Right,
that.
right.
But I don't want us to be an agency that's gonna just sit here and go, yeah, let's push ALS calls to try and get more money, because that's not the way I roll.
Right.
And I don't want that to be our thought process, that it should be what our area can afford. And right now, I would say 600 is low, but I would say for this area and being the fact of what we have, but then you gotta remember that Medicaid and Medicare are only gonna pay a percentage of that. So that's why they always go higher and expect,
Yeah, some percentage reimbursement, yeah.
yeah, so.
Insurances are the same way. But yeah, somebody's providing services pretty cheap. There's one that's $325, and there's one that's, you know, $12.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, 325, yeah, here's the number.
Yeah.
So let's make BLS non-emergency $600.
That's, I would go with that
What do you
definitely.
think?
Right? It's fine with me. I write down the-
BLS emergency, on this page, it's 746 average, 1623.75. What do you think? Robin, you got a thought?
There is no BLS emergency.
Okay.
Okay, there isn't. If you have an emergency, you just made that call an ALS intercept. So that
So that doesn't
BLS
exist.
emergency shouldn't even exist in our,
Well, we probably gotta throw a number at
I'm
it,
gonna put a
though.
number on it in case.
$800.
works, but that will never happen.
Yeah, whatever happens, but
Yeah,
We just put it on.
yeah.
What about ALS non-emergency?
ALS one, is it, again, is that not a thing?
It's probably not a thing.
Now, there is, because, you know, they're complaining of chest pain, you put the monitor on, you don't see anything, so it's not necessarily a heart attack, it could be just electrolyte imbalance, so it's not gonna be an emergency issue, okay?
Well, if you read these descriptions, if you're dispatched by 911, they're emergency. That's their,
Yeah,
Yeah, so again, this is something that's never gonna happen.
our ambulance doesn't leave unless it's dispatched.
yeah.
Well, you might be surprised if.
Somebody walks
if
into
they
the
get a
walk
cheaper
room,
rate
Yeah, they might
for
start
scheduling
scheduling it.
things,
Yeah.
then they might start scheduling things.
Yeah.
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 which would be good, because then at least we can plan it.
So what's our number for that?
For ALS
ALS
non-emergency.
non-emergency?
Yeah.
Yeah, the average is 770. They go from 425 to 1,500. Look at that.
Go 9.
900?
Okay. ALS emergency, that's bigger.
That's the big one,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah, so
the,
that's, you call 911 and
and you're shit of it.
you got ALS 2. Yeah. You're in pretty rough shape.
Yep.
1,200, 1,000, 1,100?
Yeah.
What's the number? Pick one.
The average is 980.
And that's not even close.
Well, how much it costs to do that?
Because I mean, you're
1,500?
I know over the hill it's 12.
you're using equipment, you're using.
Yeah.
At Maine, it's 12 to do that?
Yeah.
So you want to do?
Do we say 12?
I would say 12 because number one, if it's an emergency, you just save their life and hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
Two.
ALS 2, which is 3 or more IV drugs or one of 7 procedures done. They list the procedures down there.
Someplace.
so 1,400, 1,500, something like that.
ALS 2, that shows, on the average, it's 1150.
1154, right?
54, but it goes from 2,900 to 600.
This is not the way we should be doing this, but we're doing it.
Well, no, I'm processing in my mind how much, because medication's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
This is 3 or more used.
Yeah.
Or they're doing
I mean, epi,
external
You
pacemaker.
got recommendation?
700.
epi's usually,
Surgical airway.
depends on how it's done. I mean, if it's done as the CPR epi, that's like,
That's more expensive.
yeah.
CPR's on this list.
Can we address Stephanie?
Yeah.
Stephanie got a recommendation on this? I don't know, just asking your opinion.
I have
You-
no idea.
Did you chance? Okay.
The procedures and the medications all vary on
Yeah.
calls. I mean, an IV is a procedure,
It's probably just a procedure.
but it depends on if you do an IV or an IO where you're sticking a needle into someone's bone, because those little needles are more expensive than an IV.
That's on the 7. That's on the 7. Intraosseous
Yes.
infusion?
Yeah.
That's on the 7. So that would be ALS 2.
So what do you think, Rob? What number you want for ALS 2?
Again, we're just putting a stake in the ground here. We're
Yeah,
trying to get something established so that we can begin this
14?
process.
14, 15, what's the number? 15 going once, going twice?
Nah, 14.
1,400.
Nice try, Jeff.
Sold!
Interface.
Over there.
Interface, the average is low.
All right, so ALS interface, your ALS onboard and other agencies. So the average is 785.
Is that-
Yeah, I'm confused on this one because if you have,
I don't know if we gave a bill on this one.
you have a mutual aid agreement with these, like with Candor or whatever. A contract is usually written up between these, the providers. If you have 2 billing entities, which we're going to have, which is Candor and us, it normally is whoever gets the ALS assist provided to them, when they get the check from the insurance company or the patient, they're supposed to give a percentage of that to the ALS provider, and it was usually half.
So that's a contract kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'm not,
It's probably, I mean, I'm assuming when they submit to the insurance company, what they would submit would be Candor's bill, and then we'd send them a bill, we'd send Candor a bill to include with their bill, and then the insurance agency would look at both of them together. And then whatever the fee split is between the providers would be worked out, but this is likely the piece that gets submitted to the insurance.
So if it's half, it ought to be somewhere between $450 and $600.
yeah.
So the other thing up there that we did, BLS non-emergency or whatever, was 746 and we put 600 up. Shall we put 600 on this one also?
That seems reasonable.
Because we're putting a number in there.
Specialty care.
Facility to facility transport. Specialized equipment and staffing.
Oh, we don't have that.
We don't go from hospital to hospital, we just take them
No,
up
we
there.
don't.
We just take them to the hospital.
The average is
So we-
Dane does because they have stuff, but we do not have the equipment to do.
Should we put something down or we leave it blank?
I would leave it blank because we don't have the service and we're not gonna have that kind of money to provide that service because
So we should put like an NA maybe.
Okay, great. Millage.
Mileage, average mileage,
that's always the fun one.
24.76.
That's the norm.
It goes from $11 to $40. And this is high, those numbers are high because you can only charge mileage when you're loaded going one
Yes,
direction.
Yeah.
yes.
And
From the patient's house to the hospital.
It's $11 to $40 per mile.
27 is the going, because by the time you get bang, 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 you usually get about $8 back in a mile.
Let's do 27.
27. 27 per mile, or what that doesn't say, but.
And if they see that and go, ah, but the insurance company pays that too, so.
Right. That's because you drove to their house and then you gotta return back. You don't get paid for anything.
That's right, it's just low time. I mean, I wouldn't pay for somebody that if I wasn't in the rig, screw that.
Well, how about the treat and release?
So this is optional.
Treat and release, you can't bill. You can't. I mean,
Only
really,
for transport.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's an NA?
If you can't go, it's all right.
So both of those are in there, right?
Thus explaining those forms that they have to fill out. If you can't check every box in that thing saying that this is why they're going by an ambulance,
You get billed.
you're not gonna get billed. That's,
So anybody that refuses transport doesn't get billed.
Just, I guess a quick question about somebody who refuses to be transported. So if let's say I call for an ambulance and you guys show up and I say, oh, my heart, and then you do an assessment on me. And then you tell me how much it's gonna cost me to transport.
And you refuse.
And I'm like, oh, no, I mean, you just took my time. Or I just took your time. So you said that we couldn't bill for that.
well, you can't because when you do the PCR, there's only certain criteria that we can check that's gonna make anything a billable issue. Like no apparent illness or injury is, don't bother. Other is another thing they don't wanna see. It's just like coming up on an accident and they don't want to be taken care of. You can't charge somebody that there was a potential, but there was nothing. It's no different than going to a house they think but it's not like we're gonna walk in the door and say, well, if you go with us, we're gonna charge you this,
You put out an estimate.
Yeah, here's our pricing chart,
I mean, I guess I don't know, I haven't had to look at this, so I can't tell you, legally, are we not allowed to charge, or is that just something that you can't charge an insurance company for when somebody refuses treatment? And certainly if you're pulling up to a car accident, the people who were in the car accident didn't necessarily make the phone call for the ambulance. But if somebody proactively chooses to make a phone call for emergency transport, and then you get there, and then they refuse the transport, but accept some service.
Because they didn't refuse treatment, they refused transport. So we might treat them and then they won't go.
Right, and so.
And that's a different format. That's a different format altogether that I have personally not dealt with, but I know they do it over there, and I refuse to do it because I felt that was just plain money grubbing to try to, just if you got the set of vitals that you could bill them for it. And they didn't want to go to begin with. And you just did it just so you can get money from the insurance company. I just considered that money grubbing, and I didn't want to be a part of that kind of a, it's
Well,
not.
it's also a deterrent in the future, they won't call again.
But that's not why we're here though. I mean, there's people that we do diabetic wake-ups for.
Right, but I mean, I guess that's the question, and Rusty was right to point out that at least on this rubric, it says treatment or assessment has happened, but then they refuse transport. And so the village has expended time
There are.
in responding to a call, they're just saying, oh, I don't need the actual ambulance right now. And then, the question of, and I think Robin's right, I mean, that maybe incentivizes people in the village to try to push an assessment or treatment that,
but
somebody doesn't really need it. But, I mean, that's where I would hope as the EMS captain, department head, you would tell people, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, there's diabetic wake-ups where you go and you bring them around, okay? And they can technically refuse to go to the hospital. But we're encouraged to call the doctor and have them talk to them and whatever. And if it's a diabetic wake-up, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna go with an ambulance anyway, because the doctor will talk them into it. So there'll be, financial.
So where does that leave us? Do we say NA for both of these optionals?
I don't have to say anything. It doesn't sound like we do it. I mean,
It's nothing that's the norm. It's like picking somebody up, you can't bill them for it. You know what I mean? They fall down, you pick them up. Done.
Yeah. So then how about the last two?
Optional bariatric surcharge. Patient that requires extra staff.
I'm sorry to short lines.
So the average is 170.
Okay, you got volunteers assisting volunteers. What are you going to charge for that? I don't think so.
People obviously do it.
But if it's really a truly bariatric, we can't haul them.
Because of
Our stretcher's
Stretcher,
full.
yeah.
Yeah, 600 and that baby's squeaking like a little baby. So, yeah.
Well, that's 2 people.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
You'd be surprised.
So, and then Mara, just to touch briefly on the ALS treat and then refusal to transport. So Robin, when somebody gets ALS treatment but then refuses transport, has the village had to spend money on drugs treating that person?
That's the diabetic wake-up, like I'm telling you, because you have to do an IV.
So what about other things though? Like what other ALS treats might happen that do happen? And I'm asking because, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I don't want the village to spend a bunch of money on medicine that somebody then refuses transport. It
and
seems
we
like an unlikely
reimburse
occurrence.
for services, for actual bona fide services, right?
Okay.
We don't put a number in for that,
Yeah.
at least where it seems like ALS treats.
If we were back in the day with the check-in, or with the EpiPens, that was an expensive recoup if somebody, but because of the prices of those, and we couldn't afford them as we were, we went to the draw up and injected. It's like a minimal amount of money compared to $200, $300, $400 for a EpiPen. But
Well, I think we ought to have $200 in there or something.
just something is
Average for the ALS treatment and release is $434.
Where's, oh yeah, 434, okay.
Right, and if that's excessive for, the diabetic,
yeah.
Wait, yeah.
then, I mean, you could always
Tweak it.
Right, so you could always submit the bill as $100.
Yeah.
Well, and you could even get more detailed than what medics is.
Yeah, yeah.
You could say ALS, diabetic, treat and release, $1, or whatever the dollars
Yeah,
are for that,
yeah.
and then other things being different.
Don't see them about right.
So why don't we put something in for that? What's the,
The average was 434.
434, right?
400, 300. Paul?
Can I ask Robin a question?
Yeah.
Is field terminations, is that an ALS treat and release, or is that
It's a treat and release.
that is a treat and release? I mean, that's
That's
where you're
expensive if you've given up all the uppies and bike
happy and
Innovation.
IO stuff.
Yeah.
So that's your biggest cost is field terminations.
What's a field termination?
That's somebody worked up with CPR and they didn't make it, and then they call it on.
Okay.
It's a termination.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's why there's no transport.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they refuse.
There's a word dead.
Well, so that's a great example, that as
Right.
it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, it probably ought to be 400 or something like that, right?
Yeah, so when we run an ambulance out of our thing, then we call people, they come, they take the ambulance, and they go someplace, and they treat somebody ALS, and then they don't go to the hospital. That had a cost to us.
It still had a cost.
That had a cost to us to do all that.
I would say 4, Paul.
Let's do 4.
Probably 4.
The average is 434, let's do 4.
Yeah.
If you're into a heavy-duty field termination, you're probably at that
At 4.
At least.
Yeah.
for expense.
Yeah.
So shall we put 4 there, and that second one there, optional ALS?
Is there
I
ever?
think so.
4.
Yes. I think for both of them. For both of them.
Is there ever a
For the other,
BLS one?
Yeah. They
Of the
could.
same-
Butyral treatment and,
Because that's the other one we put in A too.
I mean, there's and I know there's, like Robin said, there's examples of where the person maybe didn't ask for the ambulance to even come out,
Yeah.
and they might refuse. But it seems like where somebody asks.
Probably didn't treat
and
that.
then-
This is treat.
Well, the only way you're gonna be able to bill for that anyways, if you get a first set of vitals. If you don't get a set of vitals, it's not billable.
Right, because you've never assessed that.
Correct.
You've never treated one. I guess it's where the assessment has taken
200 in the
place.
first
Yeah.
one?
200 in the first NA and 400 in the second one there.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please. Once again, this is just our, just right here in 10 minutes.
Do we want anything in the last two columns? I'm not, the one is for the area,
Surcharge,
and then the other
Good job.
one
other.
is other surcharge.
Nice.
It's like cyano kits for boats.
If I
think you ought to put something in there, just, I mean, what,
we
if
have
something
done
comes up and you have the ability to charge for it,
We can put them on our
you don't
books.
have to.
$100 to bring somebody to help lift.
Yeah,
What's the last one for?
that's where you gotta get a boat. What if it's both? What if it's a boat and you have to get someone to help?
Lift the boat.
Then you get both surcharges.
So what's the last?
Strong hope.
I didn't even have a number for that one. I didn't see it on the spreadsheet, so
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing that I would say maybe ask Robin to keep throwing things at you, but yeah, to check and maybe propose.
So we'll put that in now and we can add something in there later.
Yeah,
sounds good.
okay.
Because there's only a certain few ambulance services that have stretchers that are big enough for that. We have, as North Valley Fire, created a wonderful ramp, you know, blocks.
That's all those answers. There is a whole list of stuff we have to gather.
That's fine.
So we can probably do it in the office.
So Mayor, I would recommend that there be a motion actually to adopt the schedule. And
We're Lord, we don't
and then just make sure that she's back here.
I make a motion to adopt that schedule that we just set up.
Okay.
And just, I don't know if we want to recap it. I think
Wait a second, that motion.
Okay.
Everybody like to go over it?
She's the EMS person, I guess that's just.
Yeah, I'll
first.
second it. Okay, and those numbers listed are BLS non-emergency 600, BLS emergency 800, ALS non-emergency 900, ALS 1 emergency 1200, ALS 2 1400, ALS interface 600, specialty care is not available, mileage is 27 per mile, optional treat and release surcharge is 200, optional treat and release surcharge ALS 400, optional bariatric surcharge 100, optional other not available.
That's what we're working on, that particular thing. Okay.
So we change it.
No, that's fine. Fran second.
All right, so we vote on that.
Yes.
The ambulance. Yes.
Pick one now.
Yes.
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 I gotta call an Uber.
Oh, Uber, yeah.
I don't want to see the.
Only about 30 bucks an hour.
No Medicare.
Probably
All right, we're still on department head. Well, we did EMS billing. Jeff, you got anything?
Our code officer started today. I'll be going with him on his first few things just to get his feet wet.
Yeah, we gave you a couple of assignments, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you shoot an email to me with a copy and stuff like that is kind of.
What's that?
Yes. And so everybody understands, because I've had a problem with this. The only way the code officer gets called out is if I call him. The way it's supposed to work is, and I'm not pointing at you, I'm just saying, is the department head, whoever the Jamoka is that's saying he needs a code officer, needs to call his department head, who needs to call me. Because because we got called out because there's garbage in an apartment. Well, I guess what, you know, my guy doesn't need to be out there at 11 o'clock because there's garbage in his apartment. We can do that the next day. So, and I'm gonna send the thing to the fire chief and to Joe, the police chief, explaining this once again, because I've got, the other thing that kind of irritates me, I forget with Danny about this, is if there's a fire, the fire chief is in control of that property. So if he decides that they can't go back in there, he needs to tell them, you can't go back in there. I don't need my code officer to get called out at 1 o'clock in the morning to tell somebody they can't go back in there because there was a fire. I mean, my budget's so tight that I'm not gonna screw around anymore. So whoever's determining they need a code officer needs to talk to their department head, and then he can decide whether he really needs to call me, for me to call in my code officer. So everybody, if you don't like that idea, then let me know, but that's the way it is. Alright. The only other thing I have is the cemetery drainage project. We've almost got the main trunk done. Got one more piece of pipe, which we were waiting for some heavy stone to come to put underneath that. We should probably have the last big piece on in either tomorrow or within the next couple days, depending on the weather. Then we're going to go back up on top and start from the pond down to redo all that, and then we'll be doing the road ditches. So it's going pretty good. So Hermie's up there doing his thing.
Here.
Peter's been up there pounding us. Other than that,
I'm scared to live on that.
other than that, that's all I got, unless you guys have something for me.
Mr. Mayor, the fire chief can't be here tonight. Ask me to, ask for approval for two firemen. Don't think there was anything else.